Well, dear Mr. President, dear Aleksandar Vučić, President of the Republic of Serbia, please, a warm applause again. Milorad Dodik, President of the Republika Srpska. Prince Philip of Serbia is among us today. Former Federal Councillor Dr. Christoph Blocher is here. Very pleased to see you. And of course, our former National Councillor and great Swiss entrepreneur Peter Spuler. A warm welcome here in Zurich. Then I want to say hello and thank you to the ambassador of Serbia in Bern, to Goran Bradic. Without him, we would not be here. His heroic efforts to make it possible. Thank you very much. And we will never forget his impeccable right-hand man, Bojan Stojanovic. You are the Novak Djokovic of Serbian diplomacy. Thank you very much for being here. Then Mihailo Šauric, the Consul General of Serbia. A warm welcome. Boro Bronza, Ambassador of Bosnia-Herzegovina. And numerous other ambassadors from a lot of countries here in Switzerland. Thank you very much for coming. A great welcome to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, welcome to Zurich, welcome to the Dolder Grand, welcome to the second Zurich speech 1 year after Prime Minister Viktor Orban was here and opened the discussion. We are very proud, we are very happy that we have our high guest, the President of Serbia, here in the time of Advent, but in a very dark time. And this is why we have started our little candle here, that there is a silver lining, that there is a beam of light, even in times of darkness. Advent time, Adventszeit, means that we tune our souls into the receiving mode. We start to listen more than we talk. We start to listen to other voices. And this is the goal of this event here, organized by Weltwoche, which is extremely important to us. It's an event which wants to further international understanding, open international dialogue on the basis of Swiss neutrality. Our guest of today, Serbia's President Aleksandar Vučić, impresses me a lot, especially since we have met in summer, when I had the privilege to interview him, because he's a man who speaks with a soft voice in a time when everybody is screaming. We have a lot of politicians today who are clenching their fists. But to my perception, President Vučić is a statesman who is extending his hand to greet other people and not to make a fist. To me, President Vučić, you are a man of peace. And Serbia is an extremely interesting country with a rich history at the breaking point of cultures in the middle of Europe, between the West, the so-called West, and the East, always having to survive, to cope with wars, with a lot of difficult situation. Serbia is a Christian nation, and the Serbs have defended European Christianity for centuries against enemies and attackers from where they came. From the experience of a lot of wars, one of them is not far away. The Serbs have learned, and I think this is especially true for you, Mr. President, to fight for peace, to work for peace, to build bridges and not to take on trenches. Today, a lot of people tell us also Switzerland should decide between the West and the East, between the good guys and the bad guys. There is just a strong either or. And I would say, President Vučić, you are a politician who is trying to live another alternative. It's not either or, it's as well as. It's not East against West. Probably it's East and West together, because we have just one single planet, and I think we all are doomed to cooperate and make the best of it. You're keeping this utopia of understanding high, even in times of war, and this is why you have my utmost admiration. Sometimes you seem to me like an artist on a tightrope up in the sky, not trying to fall down into the abyss, and a lot of people are dragging on you. Everybody's trying to push you on one side and the other, but somehow you manage to keep the balance, and we wish you to keep this balance for a very long time. And the balance is, of course, also the modus vivendi of Switzerland. It is a great honor to welcome you here in Zurich, to discuss with you, to listen to your Zurich speech, and after the speech we'll have a conversation. And now, may I ask you, dear Mr. President, to come to the podium. The floor is yours, and our souls are tuned to the receiving mode. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Dear Roger, Mr. Chancellor, President Dodik, Your Excellencies, dear friends, I'm honored and privileged to be here and to have an opportunity to say something before you. And it's very difficult speaking and saying anything after Roger, because he's so energetic, he's so well focused that you cannot overcome it. And I'm not the type of guy that is by his nature optimistic, and but I'll be 100% sincere with you and will say what I think. And I'll be very ready to listening to you later on and to learn many things from you. We live today in a world where people don't listen to each other. When you have propaganda which always has to appear as a truth, either you follow it, either you immediately become an adversary or an opponent of those that are empowered always to be right and truthful. Changes that are happening are at the fastest pace in exactly the last 300 years. Full Western dominance based on two postulates is almost coming to an end. One which is only half true and the other which is absolutely true. The first half-true one, that the democracy as a form of a political regime established in the West was the lighthouse that attracted all others, both big and small, on their side. The other one is that China and Russia had missed the first industrial revolution and maintained for a long time in force the feudal order that could not bring economic prosperity. Quite the contrary, it led to huge dynastic conflicts and lagging behind of those nations. The exception that confirmed the rule is the big victory and the biggest contribution of the Russian army in the Second World War. But the Soviet Union and Russia, apart from the victory against Nazism, could offer to the rest of the world neither higher living standards nor free social thought. However, in the past 40 years, things have been dramatically changing. In the first 25 out of those 40 years, all indicators and numbers changed that progression imposed by the arithmetic display of growth, and in the past 15 years, the fastest in the history of mankind, just the way it suited geometric progression. What is that happened and that inevitably encouraged changes in the world to such extent that in 2024 the world is completely unrecognizable comparing to the world from 2000? Democracy. Is there more democracy and freedom of expression than it used to be the case 40 years ago in Eurasia? Not counting only the traditional Western partners like South Korea and Japan. No, there is a changed situation in South Korea as well. In Eastern traditional societies, yes, there is. Of course there is. And the first mistake of all of us that are geographically coming from the West is that we haven't noticed how those societies changed politically and in every other sense, and how much they progressed in political system and regime they presented. Actually, we have never wanted to accept their progress, because only one flag of democracy can fly on the Earth's hemisphere, and it is the Western one. Non-recognition of their progress in democracy would be the first mistake of our Western world. The second, even bigger mistake was the one that we lied to both ourselves and them, that we wanted them to accept the same model and supposedly the same values. And you know, all of us that are on EU path, we always hear two words. One is values and another two words, merit-based. Whenever you ask them, okay, what are the values at the beginning of accession process, the main word was market economy. It was everybody wanted to reach the level of a real market economy because we used to live in a self-managing socialism period of time, but different types of property, not a private ownership, was established as a dominant one. And we wanted to belong to that type of market economy, which was a prerequisite for the real democracy, for the new political system we wanted to build, but for the better and more efficient economy as well. At the end, what happened just a few years ago, and here in Switzerland, I got it as a final news. 2015, we started listening from many different circles in the West, okay, market economy is not anymore the basic value of our societies. We should now defend our markets with new tariffs, with protectionism, and that flag, market economy flag, was taken by Chinese. And I was coming to Davos for the last 11 years and was listening very carefully President Xi Jinping's words in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And he exactly took a flag of market economy from the Americans and from all of us from Europe, saying, okay, we are embracing globalization and market economy. And everything went and turned upside down. All of a sudden, Chinese, because they had an eye of a tiger, in the recent decades. They wanted to change themselves, they changed themselves, they became very successful in their economic model. They accepted all the regulations, all the rules of the West, but when they started jeopardizing our economic successes, we said, now it's all about protectionism because we have to remain dominant and we're going to change the rules. And now the only discussion that we have about economies, it's not how to boost our growth rates. Nobody discusses that. How are we going to secure better loans for our companies and at the same time not to put in jeopardy stability of our public finances? Why our public debt to GDP ratio is around 100%? It's going to be at the end of this year, speaking about Eurozone. In Serbia it's a bit better at least. When we speak about this issue, it's 46.4. But what we're going to do, because if next year it's going to be once again 0.7 growth rate of Europe, or 0.8 or 1.1, whatever we might say about China, India, many Arab countries, United States of America, they're going to have either twice, either 5 times or 6 times bigger growth. We cannot follow them anymore. But we have no ideas. The only idea we all have is what kind of tariffs we're going to put against the other guys. And now the main discussion is Trump going to put his tariffs on China, on Mexico, on Canada, on Europe, or against all of them? And how Europe will overcome all the difficulties with China, because they cannot resist to both the United States and to China, and how Trump will accept the fact that United States, they have a deficit in their trade exchange with Europe of 132 billion, and he is, as a matter of fact, which is true, very much security protector of Europe, and what he's going to do. And now we have thousands of open questions, apart from all these wars that are taking place in our hemisphere. And it's very difficult to find solutions. And I'm here, it's easy, of course, to analyze it, having all these data, all these figures like I'm doing today. At the end, before I start saying a few words about Serbia, and don't worry, I'm not going to criticize anyone else in our neighborhood who would like to act differently comparing to the others from the Western Balkans. And I know that at least you in Switzerland are fed up with all of us speaking our stories, revealing the truth from the past and everything else. I know it. And you know it even better than I do. What I wanted to say is that the real issue for us is what we can do in order not to worsen the situation in the world. We have now this big conflict, which seems to be a conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which is actually Russia versus West, which is, as a matter of fact, Russia plus its allies, including China, versus West. It's what I heard from Angela Merkel and Li Keqiang in Munich, 2017, if I'm not mistaken, security conference. Li Keqiang was referring to the audience and saying, Prime Minister of China of that time, and he said to everybody, and you saw that he was very sincere, very honest, he thought what he was saying. Well, you see, China was a leading country of the world since 300 years ago. And we Chinese, we missed that first industrial revolution. What we need now is just to get at place number 1 in the world where we used to belong. And nothing more than that. We are not going to do anything against anyone in the world. We don't want you to follow us, to succeed us on that road. What we need is just to occupy that place, which is a natural position of China. And then I did not expect, but Angela took floor and she said, of course in a decent and polite way, was saying, but why do you think that we would like to see you again and that pedestal as a number one country in the world? And then she got a big applause. And then she was saying, well, you cannot buy our company, is it Kuka or Kuka, whatever, big robots for Volkswagen they were making and all the other automotive companies. You cannot buy it for peanuts, that and that. Well, they didn't buy it for peanuts for 5 billion, but they bought it for 10 billion just a few weeks after. And then what else we could have offered apart from protectionist measures? In the meantime, I believe that the situation in Ukraine is getting even more out of control. It's not even a big news today. Today the main news in the world is whether President Yoon made a terrible mistake or he did not, or what will happen in South Korea in 2 days, and that's it, because everybody is exhausted with Russian-Ukrainian clash. Nobody wants to hear anything, but everybody wants to win the war. And whoever I asked so far, people from the West, they were saying to me, Aleksandar, you need to understand that we must not lose this war. It's very clear. When I asked some of my Russian friends, they said to me, you, Aleksandar, no, we must not lose this war. Good. Both sides that are in clash, they must not lose the war, which means that that war will last for a very long period of time, and which means that no one is ready for the really compromising solution. And now there are thousands of stories what will happen. I'll do something what all the others do. You know, we in Serbia are accustomed and we are in the habit of knowing everything better than the others. Doesn't matter if we don't know anything, but we know everything better than the others. There are in Serbia 7 million presidents, 7 million football coaches. I don't believe that in Switzerland is the same, but that's how it goes in my country. And if you ask them what is going to happen, all of us, we have our own position on that. And me too. What I believe that might be very dangerous, there are two schools now. One that is winning within the NATO and United States of America is what they're going to do in the next 6 weeks. And what I believe they're going to do at the end of this week or by the end of next week, they're going to change their position not only on a tactical but a bit of a strategical level, which means that they will try to aim to target and to harm very much Russians regarding their ammo storages, but not only that, oil resources, gas storages and everything else. If that happens, they still believe that Putin will not strike back, that he might hit very hard Ukraine, but not any of NATO countries. That's how I see the situation, and that's what I forecast, that's what I foresee, which you'll be able to see, to notice, to check it within month and a half. But what I think is that Putin won't be very hesitant with stronger strike back. We'll see. But when it happens, then you'll really believe that it will be a better position for anyone to get the real truce or ceasefire in 40 days or 60 days. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. And my proposal in the recent meeting which we had in Budapest, that European political community, I was saying in the presence of President Zelensky, was the only one who was saying that, which is not strange, that I think that we should set a truce, cessation of fire, whatever. As earlier we stop it, well, at least you all will have to sit and to try to attempt to resolving this problem. And I saw that President Zelensky was not very happy with my openly imposed proposal. After 2.5 years, I spoke to President Putin by telephone, and I don't believe that we just in 3 sentences discussed Ukrainian issue. But I noticed that he was not cravingly trying to get at cessation of fire as well. Which means that we'll have further escalation. And at the same time, waiting for miraculous resolution of a problem that will come from the White House. Sorry that I'm saying, and once again, acting like a prophet, which I'm not at all, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. And I'm afraid of big disappointments that might come for all of us, which means that we'll have further deterioration of situation. In the meantime, I'm not sure that this peace established between Israel and Hezbollah and the others is long-lasting peace. I hope it will be the case, but I'm not certain about it. And at the end, I think that we in Europe, at least Americans, will try to do something. Russians will do their job, Ukrainians will do their job. But what Europe will do? If you ask me, I'm certain that Trump, after harsh comments against China, within 6 months will conclude a deal with China. At the end, the only real territory that he will go in political way against is going to be part of European Union or European Union itself. That's also my personal opinion, nothing more than that. But our problem in Europe today is, and that's why I'm profoundly grateful to Roger, because there are few places where you can freely say what you think. I was astonished when I saw that Prime Minister Orban was visiting Putin. I was not able to do so, not because it would have been harmful to myself, but we would be under terrible pressure. We are not a member of EU, we are not a member of club, and I didn't want to expose my country to even bigger pressures. But when I saw all the others that were using Hippocratic language against Prime Minister Orban just because he spoke to someone, and I know, and I'm telling you this very openly, very publicly, that I know at least 2 European leaders that spoke secretly to Putin. They did not inform their public about it. I got it from Kremlin as an information, and confirmed information. But they were able to criticize Orban, and he did it very publicly, very openly. And what was the problem if you speak to someone? What is the problem if you listen to someone? Does it mean that you share all the views with someone? No, it does not. But we need to speak to each other. We need to understand each other. This is something that we lost in the meantime. I'm always, can I recall yourself, can I remind you on something that was happening even in this country 2.5 years ago? Because Serbia strongly condemned an incursion of Russian army into the Ukraine. In the United Nations, OSCE, and all the other institutions. But we did not impose any sanctions against Russia. Because we were the only country that didn't do it. Even in this country, in all liberal medias, it was published that Serbia was getting ready because Vučić is Putin's puppet. It's not easy to direct someone with 120 kilos, believe me. And they were saying they're going to start a new war in the Balkans. They're going to attack Bosnia, they're going to attack Kosovo, they're going to attack whomever you want. And I was saying, no, people, it's not true. But I couldn't reach anybody apart from Roger that wanted to listen, that wanted to hear. Now my question is for all those medias, because they were pretty much sure that it was going to happen. Okay, are you going to say at least one small sorry to Serbian people and to Serbian political leadership because of all these false stories? It didn't happen, it won't happen. And I'll tell you later on why this is totally excluded. On the other hand, I believe that Europe has to create its own politics in a very strategic way. And I believe that Europe is late on this. And I think that many people in Europe, they don't understand the war consequences. They still deal with the stuff in a way that we're going to survive this day, another day, and we'll see what the public audience will say about it, what they will comment, and how we can tackle it on a short term, and that's it. It's gonna be worse than hell if this continues. On the other hand, apart from market economy, which was the biggest value of our societies, now another one became a political one, territorial integrity and UN Charter. And I'm not going to speak only about Serbia, I'll just mention it. But what about our sufficient excuse? Leibniz, very famous German philosopher, used to use it. Sufficient excuse, sufficient reason to attack Iraq because of false allegation that they were possessing nuclear weapons. Who cares about it today? What's going on in Iraq? Does anybody of us knows? What was the reason that the West entered Afghanistan after Soviets left? And how it ended? Who was defeated? What was the case in Libya? We were going against dictator? And what we brought to Libya today? And now I'm going to tell you something which you might be interested in. They launched an aggression against Serbia in 1999. Because of official excuse for that was humanitarian disaster that was ongoing in southern Serbian province. They didn't get Security Council approval. They didn't get any legal approval from the United Nations, even from General Assembly. They violated UN Charter, they violated Resolution 1244 after the war. But before the war they violated all the other regulations. Now when they start speaking about territorial integrity, we always ask them, what about our territorial integrity? Because this Resolution 1244 is still in effect. It hasn't been abolished or dismantled in the meantime. But it does not exist. Who cares? And when you come to our country speaking about territorial integrity, yes, we do support, we do endorse territorial integrity of Ukraine, and we're going to be more loyal to territorial integrity of Ukraine than the others, because we have a principled position. But nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody wanted to listen to that, because everybody was saying, well, that's a different story. And when I always asked him, okay, tell me something about the difference in these stories. No, it's a long story, Vučić, you should not be backward-leaning, past-oriented, you should be future-oriented and just discuss the future, forget what was happening in the past. And my comment has always been, are you going to say the same story to Ukrainians? And they were, ha ha ha, always. Now I see they're going to say the same story to Ukrainians. Just wait for the proper moment. Either it's going to be within 6 months or within a year. And then you'll see whether that devil's advocate from Serbia was right or not. And I'll tell you one more thing. When they start negotiating with Putin, and I have already gotten that confirmation, Putin will, rightly so, from his point of view, it's against Serbia's interests, but it's in his best interests, he'll start speaking about Kosovo precedent. Because he's going to sit with Americans around the table and all the others will be on the table. And then he's going to say, well, what you did with Kosovo, we did with Donetsk, Lugansk, Crimea, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. Zaporizhia doesn't matter whether you take Russian or Ukrainian language. And then, what is going to be their answer? No real answers. Then they'll have to make another deal. But the only solution is, which I think this is the only thing that I'm offering today, is to set up the new rules and the new values that everybody will respect. Values cannot be changed in 2 days, or in 2 years, or in 10 years. Those values should remain constant. And at the same time, changing the rules, making it acceptable for everybody in the world, and not violating it in the future. And then, when you make this kind of foundation, then we can start resolving the problems from the past, knowing that nothing similar will happen in the future. This is the only solution. There are no other solutions. And when I was saying this to Scholz and Macron and to Ursula, they said to me, well, Putin will not say this. He'll not use that. After a month, got a call from Emmanuel, Aleksandar, how did you know it? Even Chancellor Scholz was saying this to me. Yeah, he mentioned it. Ursula was saying, yeah, he was speaking about it. Of course he was speaking about it. He's a smart politician. He uses what you give to him. And you gave him something. You gave him an ace which was hidden in his sleeve, and that's good for him. It doesn't mean that it's good for us. To the contrary. But it's good for him. What is going to be American response to that? I'm not sure. I hope that, on the other hand, we'll have less Hippocratic approach towards some other values. It's not a big secret that big Western powers were interfering into elections all over the world. And always saying, democracy is when we win, if we lose, then it's not that democratic as we thought, as we want it to be. When the others learned lesson, including Russians and the others, when they started interfering into their elections, that was like a complete havoc, something totally forbidden, and something very, very strange. And then, if that's the case, just act in the same way. And I put a lot of hopes into Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy's work, as well as to Kennedy's work, and I hope that they will change something on that as well, because we need real principles and less hypocrisy. In the end, just a few words about Serbia's position. And as I said at the beginning, I'm not going to criticize anyone else in our surrounding. As you know, we are on our EU path. And today I had an important meeting with your business community. And you know, I was bragging ourselves a lot, and one smart guy at the end said to me, It looks like a paradise when you depict it. It's not. It's not at all. We face thousands of problems. We are still a poor country. Our GDP in absolute numbers, with 6.7 million people living there, is 82 billion. But just 10 years ago it was 32 billion, just to see what kind of a progress we made in the recent years. But it's still very small, as you know, and it shows how much we need to work in a more diligent way, which is going to be very difficult. People want, in all our countries, all over Europe, they want to live better every single year and to work less. And I take always my personal example. This year I was working a bit less than last year, but I'm getting a bigger salary. If I didn't get it, I would say something against the state. And I saw the Swiss people started laughing when I was saying that, but it's true. We are all spoiled and conceited. We all want just to get out of the blue something that we did not earn. If someone is preventing that, this is the culprit. And having in mind the level of digital laziness today, that we spend almost 3 hours doing nothing with our cell phones, just wasting time, I don't know what we're going to do. And I'm happy that we got Ursula Reynolds from Switzerland to introduce dual vocational system. But it's really tragic how difficult it is, because you need to impose it. People don't want to accept it. And not to mention the other very difficult stories. But yes, we made an economic progress. We were number 3 or number 4, speaking about level of development in the region of Western Balkans. Now we are by far number 1, ahead of everybody. The lowest public debt to GDP ratio, speaking about the countries that are members of Eurostat, and the country with the biggest average wages, and also the most developed. We mean Serbia means 50% of overall Western Balkans GDP, 55% of overall Western Balkans export, and 62% of overall Western Balkans FDI attraction. These are good things. Still, we'll have to do a lot regarding Rechtsstaat, rule of law, media freedom, many other stuff that is necessary to be delivered to our people. You know, you Swiss people, you had Landsgemeinde many centuries ago. And still, we are not that experienced, but we know that we should always respect the rule of audiatur et altera pars, and that's why I'm profoundly grateful to Roger. Just to conclude this, 2.5 years we were under big pressure to align ourselves with everybody. And I was always asking our friends in Europe, okay, if that is so, why do you need our government? Why do you need any governments? You can just text us a message or sending an email, and then that's a decision. Because I still believe in a sovereign, independent countries that can bring decisions by themselves for the sake and for the benefit for their own people. And I think this is an irrefutably best stance and best position of one country. I am very much afraid that we'll have more and more difficult situation in Europe. Just for you to know, we have 85,000 people that are working in German companies. When they sneeze, when they cough, we got immediately pneumonia. And with their growth rate, it's going to be worse for us within 2 and 3 years. This year we are number 2 country speaking about fastest growth rate in Europe. Next year we might be even number 1 country with a level of growth rate, but it doesn't mean that it will remain so in 2 or 3 or 4 years. And this is why we are very much afraid. And I just believe that Europe should make some more strategic decisions than it used to be the case. And I believe that they will be able to do so. And I'm very happy that you were very kind and very patient, and that you listened to me. And I know that, unlike Roger, I'm not charming person at all. And I cannot laugh anybody, but at least thank you for giving me a chance to say what I think. And I'm happy that President Dodik is here because, just for you to hear this word, if there are 6% of Albanians or 8% of Bosniaks in Montenegro, if they say we need to get Albanian or Bosnian language as an official language, legitimate demand, legitimate request, would have nothing against it. But if Serbs would say, and there are officially 32% of Serbs living in Montenegro, if they say we want to have, and Serbian language is spoken by 52% of people, we want to have Serbian language as an official language. Come on. Well, don't be backward leaning, you should change your focus. And I listen to them. I'm not that stupid not to understand this attitude, but I listen to them and I focus myself on economy, to tell you the truth. It's the same case with Bosnia, If whenever they say something against Republika Srpska, it's so easily accepted by everybody. When people from Republika Srpska say, well, this property issue, this assets issue is not resolved in a fair way, these guys are secessionists. Although all the others seceded from us. But doesn't matter. That happened in the past and we should be just future-oriented. And we are very much future-oriented because I'm very much focused on Expo. We are an organizers of Specialized Expo in 2027. We based everything on Expo and will fulfill all acquis, all criteria for the EU full-fledged membership status, and I don't believe that we are going to be a part of EU because they will not accept us till 2030 something. But it's our job to do it. It's our job to modernize our country. It's our job to democratize our country. But it's economy that is driving force for myself and for our country. And I hope that we'll get more Swiss people coming to Serbia and many of Serbians that are living here in Switzerland bringing either their knowledge, either themselves back to Serbia. We would be profoundly grateful to them. And at the end, economy always wins. And I believe that you Swiss people know it better than the others in the world. Dear Roger, thank you very much for listening to me. I was really honored and privileged to have an opportunity to refer to you. Thank you.